A black boy sees his father hang from a tree. I prayed the branch would break. I prayed the tree would turn the summer night into autumn. Let my father's body fall like a leaf, but instead it stood still, as if its limbs were more important than a black man's life. Dear oak tree, I pray that spring forgets you. I pray that you get termites. I pray there's a fireplace in your future. I pray that one day you become a matchstick and burn down everything next winter when the cold whiteness comes for you. I will not wish you mercy. You do not deserve mercy. I will not water you with forgiveness. You do not deserve my forgiveness. You do not deserve to become a black man's casket. Fuck the ground that held you while you held my dad. Fuck the dirt for waiting to swallow his body. Fuck the buds that will bloom from under his blood. Fuck the wind for listening. Fuck the moon for watching. I wonder how many black dads the moon has watched die. I wonder what the moon will say to the sun in the morning. Do you tell him everything's going to be okay? Do you think that everything is okay? Dear oak tree, I know that you did not kill my dad, but there is a special place in hell for all the things that stand still and do nothing when a black man dies. Every rope is a community of fibers brought together to serve a purpose greater than ourselves. So when I was assembled, I wanted to be on a flagpole. I wanted to hold up a symbol of what this country stood for. My greatest fear was being a jump rope. I just thought I would get dizzy from the spinning and spinning and spinning, but I never became a jump rope. I started on a shelf in a little store when two men walked in and purchased me. They threw me in their back seat next to a beer, a shotgun, and some sheets, and we drove to the middle of nowhere. I heard them say, the only good nigga is a dead nigga. When we got there, one of the men started to twist my body into a knot. Said now my name was Noose. I saw the man they was mad at. He was all black and bleeding and praying. He prayed and prayed so loud like he was waiting for the sky to just break open for God to intervene. They put me around his neck and tied me to a tree. He kicked and cried and swung. He kicked and cried and swung. He kicked and cried and swung till nothing. There was no God there. Just us and nothing, so much nothing, but with the flies as witness, I learned how to pray, proof that under the right circumstance, even a rope can be religious. It's been 9 days, and I'm still praying someone will come to cut him free, even if that means cutting me in half, because this ain't what I was supposed to be. I'd rather be dead than live like this. They say God will never give you a cross that you can't carry, but I don't know if anyone knows how heavy of a cross he is. When I was assembled, I wanted to be on a flagpole. wanted to hold up a symbol of what this country stood for. I just didn't know it would look like this. Nobody knows the troubles I've seen. Nobody knows my sorrow. Everybody thinks that being a beer is easy. Thinks our life just one big party, but every beer knows what it's like to be the empty thing left after a gathering, to be a spill or stain stepped over. Everybody has a story about the beer being the center of the celebration or the cause of a crash. For us beers, we got stories too. And this story ain't about a car. It's not about a rope, a shotgun, or sheets in the back seat. This story is not about the road, all rocky and rugged. The story is not about the sky, or all the heaven is not, or all the godless it is. The story is not about the moon, or how it followed us from the house to the field. The story is not about the mob of white men that gathered around the tree. The story is not about the tree. The story is not about the black man in the tree. It's not about how loud he begged or what he begged for. The story is not about the black boy who tried to pray his father's breath back into his body. The story is not about the body. No story is ever about the body. The story, well, this story is about nothing. All of the nothing that happens after the body. This story is about how unbothered everyone seems, how unburnt the buildings be. The story is about all the casual conversations that comes after the catastrophe. The story is about crock pots and the casseroles that get cooked instead of the corporations. The story is about fried cod instead of fired cops. The story is about who's invited to the cookout instead of who's pulling up to the White House. The story is about you. What did you do when you heard the news and the blues got sung about the black man hung? How much nothing did you do? Did you make demands? What did your demands do? Did you pray? I heard that man pray too. They say God will forgive you for what you did, but who forgives you for what you didn't? By the time I finish this story, another black man will be made into a memory, and ain't nobody throwing a protest. They too busy throwing a party, a big old party. And every beer knows what it's like to be the empty thing left after the gathering, to be a spill or stain stepped over, ignored. Nobody knows. Scripture suggests that the return of Jesus is near. But what if Jesus was already here? Like, what if Jesus decided to reappear as a prostitute and spend her evenings on the stroll? What if she walked past you carrying a clutch purse instead of a cross, or had a camel toe instead of a donkey? Would you notice her? Would you speak? Would you get down and wash her feet? Would you deny her of her divinity? What if Jesus had 12 children and no disciples? What if she was from next door rather than Nazareth? What if she turned her rent money into malt liquor rather than her water into wine? The first time her temple was turned into a marketplace was the age of 9. What if Matthew, Mark, Luke, and Little John wrote a hip-hop song about her rather than a Bible verse? Would you bother to ask her her name? But see, this isn't a criticism about Christians. This is 100% about Kenneth. For the times I was too embarrassed to kiss my mother in public. For the days I would pray she wouldn't come to PTAs or school plays because I was too afraid of what folks might say. For the times I was too scared to care because I was ashamed of her career, ashamed of her tears, ashamed of her fears, ashamed of her crack pipes and beers. This for the days that my hands were too holy to hold her near. But how do you worship your mother when her name ain't Mary and she ain't married or dating or collect the names of all the men she's made it with? How do you stand or stomach know every trick your mother flipped to ensure food match your mouth? You know that her knees and bows were not used for praying. See, my mother, she ain't never hang on a cross, but she's been nailed in public a few times. No, she ain't never been crucified, but I know a few crews that tried, and my gym teacher was one. So was a deacon, and a few married men creeping, but I guess we're being fucked by Judas is on your daily to-do list. You become really familiar with the crowing of cocks. But what if? What if Jesus came back as my mother? What if Jesus grew a few extra scars just to prove that all our faith had flaws? What if Jesus' greatest miracle was giving her son everything he needed to live, even when she had absolutely nothing to give? And if you can worship a God that sacrificed his only son to save some sinners, then surely you can worship a sinner that sacrificed her soul to save her son. Oh, so yeah, I left the personifications, if y'all noticed. Shifted. Yeah, you noticed? Okay, no more trees. Here we go. Keep going. All right, if you want to follow me, this is the perfect time to quickly let you know how you can do that. As was mentioned earlier, I run a venue, a platform, a movement, if you will, called Charm City Slam. So please feel free to follow me there. We have a lot of events coming up. Our finals, we bring the top 12 poets of our season. They all come together in a beautiful theater, 300-seater, and they battle out for $3,500 in prizes. So I want you there. So follow Charm City so you can be there. All right, we experienced that just together just now. We all agreed we're gonna be there. All right, the other thing is I am the coach for the Charm City Slam team, which is also going to Soul Fried to, do a thing. Now, there's other teams present right now, so I can't tell you what the thing is that we're going to do, but we're going to do a thing. I will say, not that this means anything, but we have won more times than any other city in the history of slam. So if that happens again, there will be no one surprised. I just wanted to say that. But I will also say that if you want to donate and support, I don't have any books or anything for sale, but if you want to donate $5 to support us, we got to spend a week in Orlando, and there's 6 of us going, so it's pricey. And so for us, we try really hard to raise as much as we can to make sure that poets don't got to go broke in order to do poetry. So if you want to donate anything at all, you can donate. The Cash App is Will Allen Y, WILLALLEN, the letter Y, Will Allen Y on Cash App. If you got $2, $5 or more, if you want to support the movement, we appreciate you. All right, 2 more poems. I got time? All right, 2 more poems. I look into a room full of folks who look like me, and suddenly my tongue does not feel safe enough to do a love poem. Instead, I do my hopeless and homeless poems, the I'm depressed and trying to cope poems, the personification where I become a rope poem. I talk for my dad's convictions, the 2 evictions, and my mom's struggle with addiction, but I do not feel safe enough to mention love. or him. And isn't that tragic? A room full of so much melanin and magic, all Christian and pro-blackness, but when it's all said and done, it will be safer for me to kill a nigga than kiss one. I stand in a room that feels like home, and that is not a compliment. Do you know how hard it is to feel good in your skin when you're hated by both the clan and your kin? Do you know how much it hurts to discover that you are despised by both the church and your mother, but which is worse, hanging from an oak tree or hanging from your family tree? I do not remember a time I felt safe enough to do a love poem. But I remember the time a few friends and I were chased by a group of guys with bricks and knives. We ran for our lives. I held my trans friend until the ambulance arrived. You know how often I look into an audience and see those same men's eyes, the same pitchforks in their smiles. How do you feel safe in a space where often you have to choose between the closet or the coffin? Truth is, I don't even have a love poem. My hands look too much like my dad's to write it. My mouth too much like my mom's to recite it. If I did, I don't do love poems. I do poems about the dead because it's the closest metaphor I have for love. I realize the only time I'm allowed to cry over a guy is if he dies. So no, I never write about the hallelujah in my nigga's lips. I do not mention how his shoulder holds my head on the mornings. I am too broken to get out of bed. It is so sad. The man I aim to be better for has never made it to a metaphor. Imagine being able to write about everything except for the reason why you write. One night, I watched a man recite a love poem to a woman. He handed her flowers and asked her to be his wife, and the entire open mic became the personification of their love, and they both made it home safe that night. I do not know what that is like, but I pray that one day I have the courage to write about love and perform it in any room that I'm in, even if the only flowers I receive are for my funeral, because I believe it is better to write about love and lose everything than to never write about love at all. All right, I have one last poem for y'all. This has become my favorite poem, and so I'm happy to close with this piece. There is a theory that states that when a butterfly flaps its wings in one space, it can cause a major change in another. When a poet steps on stage, something begins to happen. Our bodies are filled with a flutter. And this is often confused for anxiety, but in reality, there are 1,000 butterflies blossoming in our bellies. Poetry is what happens after the breaking. If you see us shaking, we're not nervous. We are cracking from our chrysalis. This is a ritual. Did you know that a butterfly's wings are not just pretty? They are poisonous. And this is what makes being a poet different. Because being this type of beautiful ain't just dope, it's dangerous. So if the FBI ain't memorizing your lines, if the devil ain't afraid of your rhymes, if the person who made you a victim ain't mad at how you depict them, keep writing. Some poets judge a performance by who stood up. I pay attention to who stepped out. What demons did I disturb this time? I don't care who snapped. I'm listening for what broke, what generational curse. What's the point of sharing my hurt if it ain't to help someone heal? So many poets are so stuck on the metaphors that they miss the metamorphosis. The difference between slick similes in the ministry is who had an epiphany, who learned to walk differently, who grew wings and flew with me. I don't care how well you can talk. What's the point of being a king if you ain't a monarch? There is a theory that states that when a butterfly flaps its wings in one space, it can cause a major change in another, which means every time a poet opens their mouth, it could cause a revolution in the White House. But some of you poets got too much assimilation in your alliteration. We got enough cocoons. What we need are more warriors with wings. That you know that a poet can go in and make it safe for somebody's son to come out. Can spit a poem so hot, it melts the ice off a board. Got a pen so nice, can rewrite executive orders, can speak out and make the world better for so many daughters. But you still performing for camcorders. Poet, when you step on this stage and the butterflies awaken, it's because what you have to say is sacred. So stop trying to be the entertainment when every poet was meant to be the transformation. Thank y'all so much.